Yeah, so I didn't plan to make 2 videos about Nashville and Vancouver back-to-back, but yeah, here we are, talking about one of the things that I think has been the biggest and most surprising stories all year. We'd been making videos chronicling this player and his return to pro hockey, how he was doing very well, and how there was apparent interest in him and his services, but when it comes to former Predator, former Sabre, former Canuck, Cody Hodgson, we had ourselves a very unfortunate update that, sure, while it is unfortunate, you cannot see this as an L in any respect. Because when it comes to Cody Hodgson, this tweet from Thomas Drance pretty much sums it up. After an improbable comeback from a mysterious illness, former Canucks top prospect Cody Hodgson has retired again. I caught up with Hodgson in Nashville last weekend to discuss what he learned, why it mattered, and what's next. Now, this, of course, is like bad news. For sure, it's not good to see a guy retire, but just to see Cody go through this entire process where he was an NHL top-touted guy, where he was one of the guys that I think Canucks fans felt was going to be a huge part of this team, where he did have 33 points in 63 games played for Vancouver as a rookie. And as a guy who had played in the playoff run heading into the Stanley Cup Finals, this is a guy who had a whole bunch of potential. And we had talked about the story before. He was a Canuck, he was a Sabre, he was a Predator, and eventually he retired. But to see him leave the game of hockey because of an illness that he had no control over and he had really no awareness of until it got really bad, to see him miss out on hockey from 2016 to 2024, and to actually see him return and put up 8 points in 13 games played, this guy didn't miss a step. He looked good. He was scoring goals. He had 6 goals and 2 assists for the Milwaukee Admirals, and the story got so big to the point that we had word that some NHL teams were actually interested in bringing this guy onto their organization. Who knows if he would have been able to play? Who knows if Cody Hodgson, after 8 years of not playing any hockey, would have been able to, you know, get back up to speed, get back up to NHL pace. He hadn't played an NHL game since that 2015-16 season in Nashville, but realistically, just to see a guy persevere and get to this point in the first place, where he even did come back and he did play, he put his money where his mouth was, and he was like, yeah, I can actually do this, I want to try it. That's a big baller move right there. And I don't think there's anybody that should go out there and discredit that. Now, if you wanted to understand what happened, we'll leave a link in the description to the Athletic piece by Thomas Drance, but we'll also leave a link in the description to this piece made on tsn.ca, because of course, I mean, TSN, not behind a paywall, so it's a lot easier to just put it on the screen. But this article goes over the same information. Former Canucks forward Cody Hodgson ends his comeback. The 34-year-old former Canucks forward has once again retired. The Toronto native suited up in 13 games with the AHL's Milwaukee Admirals after joining the team in January, notching 6 goals and 2 assists. He told The Athletic's Thomas Drance that the symptoms of malignant hyperthermia, the condition that caused him to initially retire, had returned. I knew in the first period that it was going to be my last game, Hodgson said, of what ended up being his final game in mid-April. I had heat pads all over my body and all over my hands. It was too much. I knew I was done. I knew I wasn't going to be able to continue. I actually told my winger Igor Afanasyev, and we have lots of chemistry, I like playing with him. He set me up a couple of times. So then he starts saying, "Don't stop," to me between shifts, Hodgson said with a laugh. It was nice to have a good game, but my back was tightening up and it was super hot. My neck was tight, I was getting loopy, it's just not a recipe to play professional hockey. And you know, this is like, when you start thinking about it, life is not fair sometimes. It's really not. Like, certainly, you know, always making hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars playing hockey, like, how unfair could it be? Yeah, I get it. Like, Cody Hodgson has gifts that allow him to be in one of the best positions in the world, whether he has malignant hyperthermia or not. But the fact that this illness is legitimately holding him back from what could have been an extraordinarily successful NHL career, not just in terms of like, oh, points and goals and assists or whatever, but like playing in the show, being a full-time guy, making millions and millions of dollars. He was deprived of that life for 8 years, and now after attempting a comeback and actually showing that he has what it takes to still be a part of this team and be okay, that's when it's like, yeah, no, sorry, bud, you can't play anymore. This thing that you were fighting for so long, it's come back, and now it's taken over your life in the same way that it did 8 years ago. It's honestly kind of heartwarming seeing that his interaction was with Igor Afanasyev in particular, because, you know, we might have some Preds fans watching this video. Igor Afanasyev's a good prospect. Young guy, was a really talented Russian forward, and seeing him form that sort of duo with Cody Hodgson, it's like the old and the new. It's a really weird experience, honestly. As a fan of this sport, seeing Cody Hodgson and being excited for him back when I was in elementary school, seeing now in 2024 that he's playing and doing well with Afanasyev of all people, like, that's kind of nuts when you really think about it. But the short-lived mini relationship that these guys had on the bench that was talked about, I definitely do love the sound of that. But ending off this entire piece here, this is what Cody Hodgson says about the entire return. In general, he says the goal of his comeback was ultimately achieved, and he once again leaves the game with his head held high. I promised myself that if I ever felt healthy enough, I'd try it, no matter when it happened, even if it was 8 years later, Hodgson said. Now I know. I'm just not able to do it, so I'm good. I'm at peace more than I ever was in the last 8 years. I answered the question that I could play again. Maybe someone else would look at it objectively and conclude something different, but I thought I could keep up with the kids. Originally taken 10th overall in the 2008 draft out of the Brampton Battalion, Hodgson appeared in 328 games over 6 years with the Canucks, Preds, and Sabres. So, this is exactly what we were talking about, right? I mean, this dude had to go through so much just to even get the willpower to think about coming back. And then, he did it successfully. Like, what else is there to say about that? Cody Hodgson was a professional hockey player in the year 2024. If you had asked me a year ago if we said that, yeah, no, there's no way. That guy's illness, it was so bad it stopped him from being able to live life properly. There was no world in which we thought this was a possibility. But it was. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are a Canucks fan, a Predators fan, or a Buffalo Sabres fan, what are your opinions about Cody Hodgson's ultimate return to pro hockey, his subsequent retirement, but how, when he was playing in 2024, he actually looked pretty good. I'll say this one more time because I think this is like the last video we'll ever make about Cody Hodgson, like unless we do some sort of what happened to video years and years down the line. But if everything panned out, if everything was fine, if he never had the malignant hyperthermia, then honestly, I feel like everything that Bo Horvat is in the NHL with the Islanders right now, Hodgson could have been that too. Like, Horvat had everything that Hodgson had, except I think Hodgson might have been just a tad better. Maybe a bit more offensive potential there, maybe 80-point potential in a season, while also being a leader, two-way force, center guy, big-headed Canadian dude. And I say big-headed as in, like, no, he's not a big head personality-wise. He literally has, like, a big head. If you look at some of the pictures, Bo Horvat and Cody Hodgson are very similar in many ways. It's very weird. But all head-size jokes aside, Cody Hodgson was somebody that I absolutely loved as a hockey fan in 2010 and 2011 and eventually 2012, and we all got pissed off when he was traded over to Buffalo for Zach Kassian, who was fine in his own right too. But for Coho, this was a guy who had a lot of potential, and it was always going to be unfortunate to see that not fulfill itself in the NHL. But either way, he got the comeback, he tried it, and ultimately it just wasn't meant to be. It sucks sometimes, but he tried. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Cody Hodgson and his career. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.